Hello, what I'm going to be reading about on what I have written doesn't as yet have a title, which I'm going to be saying at the end of this. Due to me writing this whole thing out and reading it as I'm going along. What am I going to be writing about and what words that I'm going to be using, and not only that, it's interesting, but also enjoyable for everyone who is listening as I reading this out loud for everyone to hear. But I also may post all my lines on social media for everyone else so that they can read all this as what I have said, only if I decided to do so. How many words I'm going to be using and how many pages that I'm going to be filling up after using every word that I'm putting in. The page that I'm going to be writing on, I could set it on an A4 page, A4 size, which is a standard size here in Australia, or in an A5 size, with both having margins and also putting in portrait mode then landscape mode. What I will complete have what I have written on this document. How many words and characters that I'm going to be using on the number of pages that I'm have written on, and how many words and characters that I'm going to be removing when I edit everything that I written, and am I going to be able to spell every single word correctly, and if I don't, then I look in my dictionary that is close by my side and find the words that I'm going to be using and writing it down on this document. Having a dictionary nearby and searching up a word that I'm going to be using is an old school thing than using an electronic device to get a word which would result in losing the ability into knowing how to spell words if a device itself would not last that long. I would write something from time to time, or if I make a little bit of time on the side, then I would write if whenever possible. Writing to something, writing to some is like a hobby to them, but I don't see this as a hobby to me because I'm writing less often, and others who write more often have more skills to have than they would write professionally, and even writing a few or more books on the side. Would it would it take a number of hours, days, months, or even years to write everything down that I can think of? And if I still have the interest in doing all of this writing at all, how many times that I'm going to be writing, and I have written until I got everything right and clear to be readable by others. Looking, thinking, and inserting every single word or text that I can think of would work in the story that I am writing about. What's the story I'm going to have written? What in what it ends up going to be like? This whole entire document or script has been written by a real person and not by artificial intelligence, or AI for short. If I do use artificial intelligence, then then not only losing my ability of knowing how to spell and write words, but also losing the creative ability that is part of writing as well. I set my character limits to 280 maximum, just like if I'm posting a tweet on a social media platform, Twitter, now known as X, and to make sure that I don't go over my maximum character limits, then I added 280 numbers, and using Word Program's overwrite feature, and replace every single number with letters in the sentence if possible, and delete the remaining numbers after completing the sentence, which type of subject or topic that I like or want to write, as long as I enjoy doing all of this writing. Maximum character limits when coming to making posts on social media is one of the few ideas when coming to limiting characters when coming to writing a whole entire sentence. Once in a while, a writer would need a little help when they're writing alongside others than their dictionary. And if they are writing a whole entire document on a computer, then they would use a text-to-speech software if the whole entire sentence makes sense to the writer. I don't think most writers would agree with this, but for me, who is writing all of this, that text-to-speech computer software is a good thing, which I get a chance in what I have written being spoken out to me. I hope that I'm not going to upset or offend anyone if what I am doing, writing all of this material. I could write a story if I wanted to, but that's not going to happen because I would need some sort of assistance, which I don't know anyone who would help, and being the only person who is writing this whole entire document, trying to write a whole entire document from an author's heart whenever possible, or the document itself would not be the same at all. Writing a document with a couple of pages would take a long time to do, but on the other hand, I would have a chance to learn how to spell new words, and also spell words that I know how to spell once again in a long time. I may not have the ability to know how to write, but it comes down to others who are reading my works, and if they like what I have written. When coming to writing, there will be mistakes have been made here, and writing sentences that don't make sense, but after a little editing and fixing those mistakes, then those sentences would make sense and understanding to read. If I have inspiration to write about something, then it has to be something that is around me. If it's happening or something that is somewhat interesting to me, I could write something that could be funny in a way, initiating or doing it without knowing it would end up being funny by the reader's standpoint. If I write each sentence and part of that sentence goes over to the next page, then I make that whole entire sentence as part of the new page. When I publish all I have written, then it's up to me, the writer, or when and where I publish my works. If someone wants to do something, even for the first time, they would do their best into it, which also applies to writing as well as I'm doing. But this is not my first time writing, which I have written a number of episodes for a podcast or video, which all produced myself. Writing is like a form of therapy to some who want to escape from reality, and doing something relaxing and having time for themselves. Writing is a story of some sort would take a bit of time to write, but also take a lot of the writer's creativity to it as well. Some might see that writing might be boring, but what you don't see about is that writing can be educational, and it brings up and also improves a person's spelling and vocabulary abilities. Writing to something is like a side job, which they would take a little bit of their time without interfering with what they're supposed to be doing at that time, and writing what they want to write and publish their writing whenever they want. A person can write whatever they want, no matter what subject that they writing about, as long as it's readable by others to follow. Some people think they need writing skills in order to write a book, but I don't think it's necessary as long as they are able to write whatever they want. Writing can be made challenging by the writer with a series of limits and deadlines, and that the writing has been done by the time and date that it's set. There are writing competitions out there for writers to show off not just their skills, but also talent in how they write up sentences. Writing can be written in a form of poetry, which some write poetry, but also writing lyrics for songs and music of any kind. Writing is like an instructional tool that gives the person ideas into how things work and what to do and not what to do. Writing is archiving, documenting the events that currently happening around the writer's time, so whoever else reads the writer's works decades later and gets ideas on what the past was like for everyone then. Writing is the most important tool to have around, from writing a document of any kind to writing notes here and there to give people reminders in what they're supposed to be doing. Writing is a way of communicating with other people through telling a story and making them see how current things are happening in another universe. Writing is one of the ways for one to relax and have a bit of time for themselves and write up what they want to write. It took me a couple of months to write 3 to 4 pages of this document, which I'm going to be using as a script in this audio only production, and all the pages are all A4 size and also in portrait mode as well. One of the reasons for why I written 4 pages was because if I convert this document from an A4 size to an A5 size page, then I get 9 pages, and at some point I might publish a book that I might write, and also to see how long would it take when I read each page out loud in this audio recording. But also in the very same time span, I also check and edit all the paragraphs, with some being re-edited and with others being relocated to other parts of the document so it can fit into what I currently saying at this time, with some of the words being corrected for spelling mistakes, with some sentences and paragraphs sounding a little better based on what I have read. My only plan at the beginning was to write 4 pages if possible, and I have a message to accomplish all of that. I said this earlier in this document that I was currently writing didn't have a name or didn't have a title to it. After I looked back on what I have written and the Holland Dyer document, and it involves what I have to say about how to write, then the title for this, which you would see it, which I'm going to be naming it as how I can write something, which I'm going to use as the title. I may write another document or script in the following future, only if I'm up to the task, and also if I have any time to do so. And if I do, then writing up only 4 pages of it. Each page is going to be a different section to what I'm going to be writing about. Having the margin set, if one A4 size page is like 2 A5 size pages. After all of the things that I have written and also saying it all out loud, I have to say what I have said has ended for the time being, and at some point I will be back with another thing to say about, only if I'm up to the task of doing it at some point, then I will. What I have the time to do it, and I would be doing it on and off period, and if that's going to happen at all. But for the time being, visit my YouTube channel or see or hear all my words, all my other works. But for now, I hear you guys later. The following content has been recorded, edited and released by Patrick Gunning, aka PFGUN0, and copyrighted in 2024 by Patrick Gunning, aka PFGUN0.